So let's see the types of the XSS attack, which is basically the types of cross-site scripting attack. So we have a bunch of types over here. So the goal of the XSS attack is always to execute the malicious JavaScript code. We have already seen some of the examples in the previous lectures. So there are few fundamentally different type of achieving that goal, which is basically executing the malicious JavaScript code. So XSS attack are often divided into three types. So first one here is persistent XSS. So this persistent XSS is basically the type of XSS where the malicious string originates from the website database. So you are just getting the SS to the website database. So every time you log into some page, it will be visible or it will be reflected to whole of the user. It won't be dedicated to particular user. All of the user that visits that particular website will get affected with this persistent XSS attack. So next one is reflected XSS attack. So this is the type of XSS where the malicious string, that means the code, originates from the victim request. So that means it will be only reflected to particular victims. So whenever anyone opens the infected links or the URL, it will be visible only to that victim and it won't be affected to whole or broad domain of the users that will visit the website. So in this case, in the case of reflected XSS, only the particular link will be infected. So whenever any user will visit that link, they will only get infected, but the domain or whole range of the user who visits the website will be unaffected. So we'll just see about this persistent and reflected XSS attack in this lecture. So another one over here is DOM based XSS attack, where the vulnerabilities is in the client side code rather than the server side code. So it is similar as of reflected, but in this case we'll just work with the events and some of the DOM manipulations so as to just change the HTML content of the websites. So in the previous couple of lectures we have illustrated a persistent XSS attack. Now we'll just see how this work with the reflected XSS and DOM based XSS attack. So we can just take the example over here. So what is the particular picture over here where we can see the XSS attack? So first of all, in this case the attacker will craft a URL containing a malicious code and it will be sent to this victim browser. So attacker will just craft a URL that will be infected URL, you can see here, and it will be linked or it will be sent to the victim browser, and the victim is tricked by the attacker into requesting the URL from the server. That means it will just ask for the URL to the server, and the website includes the malicious string from the URL in the response. So it will just pass the response from the server, and now in the fourth step the victim's browser will execute the malicious script inside the response, and it will just send the victim cookies to the attacker server over here, and attacker will just gain access to the victim's credentials. And this is the way where the XSS attack is very harmful. It is a simple script and it will be very dangerous because it will just get some cookies, some session of the victim so as to control over the victim's browser. So let's see some of the examples of the persistent and reflected XSS attack in this lecture in the test websites. So I have opened this test website over here, which is testphp.vln.web.com, and now we can see that we have already seen this part in the left hand side, that is search art is vulnerable. So anything you type here will be reflected right over here. That means you can just inject some of the code over here. And now what you can see here, it is the reflected XSS. That means it has been reflected to the HTML content. It won't be visible to anyone rather than to this particular computer. So if you just open the same link in another computer, you will see different type of HTML elements over here. So when I just run some HTML or basically the command over here, so if I just run this, you have been hacked, then you could see we'll just get you have been hacked over here. And if you just run the same, that is the URL over here, if you just copy and send to another computer, and it will be visible to this particular URL only. So any other person that will just run this particular link will be only affected or infected, and the rest of which who normally visit this website won't be affected. So that is your normally reflected XSS, where the particular user will be only infected if they get the particular link, which is infected link or a URL. So let's see some of the example of the persistent and we'll just see while we just open. Let me see, we'll just go to your profile, and now I'll just give some test over here, and the next would be also test. If I just log in with this test, then you could see it has the John Smith and the code over here. So what if I just run this script, which is you have been hacked, and if I just update this, then you could see we have this you have been hacked. Now let's go to the next private window. So let me just open this new window, and you could see this is private window. That means it is different from this page, or it is basically the different user. So let's go to the same website, that is test.php.vln.web. let's go to your profile over here, and if I just pass here test as username and test as the password, so let me just log in, then you could see you have been hacked has also prompted in this same browser, or basically in for another user. So it is reflected XSS. It is visible for particular user, or it is visible to whole domain of user who will just visit this particular site. So this is the type of XSS attack, where you can just give data or give your code to the server, and server will store that particular infected data, and it will execute to all of the browsers who will just access that page. So here we just made our alert message injected in this page, and whenever any user that will visit this page will get infected. So we have just get access to the database of a server, and we just injected some malicious code to the database of the server, and whenever that any user, it can be any user who visit this page, will get this prompt of you have been hacked. So this is the type of your persistent XSS attack, and we have seen about the reflected XSS attack a couple of times in the previous lecture. So let me show you one more time. So when I just go to the home, and let me just press on this HTTP parameter, and let me just press this check. Now let me just go to link to, then you could see we have here two parameter. I've already shown you that whenever you get anything with the question mark is your parameter. So we have P as a parameter and PP as a parameter. So I'll just inject this simple script over here saying alert. So I'll just pass here alert of, let me say 1, and if I just close my script, now when I just execute this, and let me show you something that we just get 1. So this P parameter is vulnerable, and we have injected our script code over here, that is simple payload, to just vulnerable or to see this parameter infected. So this P parameter has been infected, that means it has the XSS attack. So in this case we have now the reflected XSS attack. So anyone who will visit this particular link, so if I just copy this and give this link to any other user, so let me just run again the new private window, and now when I just give the same link, and if this new user will just run this link, then he will also get infected. So this is the type of reflected XSS attack. So it won't be executed to the whole domain, instead it will be only executed on the victim computers who will execute this URL. So this is the type of reflected XSS attack, and it is really important. We'll just see some of these XSS attack in the live website in the upcoming lectures, and this is the two types. and the important types. One is the reflected and another is a persistent. Persistent is the way to just inject the malicious code into the database of the server, where we can see that any user that will visit that particular page will get infected. But in the case of the reflected XSS attack, only the particular user which will get that particular link will get infected, and not all the user will get infected. So these are the two types and important types. So see you in the next one, where we'll just learn about more of the XSS attack. See you in the next one.